My name is Jessie Ace. I'm part of a group of enabled warriors that you've probably never heard of. We're fighting back against our invisible illness and taking the dis out of disability. We don't give sympathy to our symptoms. They enable us to be the warrior that we are. If you ask doctors and nurses, they'd say what we're doing is impossible. But pushing the limits of our conditions is something that we have to break through every single day. See, we push the limits. We are mentally strong, and we can do anything. The question is, how far can we push those limits? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Jessie Ace, and this is the Disabled to Enabled podcast. Enabled Warriors, today's guest is the president of a nonprofit called Girls with Guts, which primarily focuses on empowerment, support and self-esteem, building of women who are 18 plus with any form of inflammatory bowel disease and or an ostomy bag for any reason, whether it be cancer, disease, etc., etc. She herself battles Crohn's disease daily whilst fundraising to help others with the condition. She's amazing and she's here with us today. I can't wait. She's going to tell us more. Enabled Warriors, please help me in welcoming the amazing Alicia Aiello.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's amazing. Can you get straight in by starting us off with telling us more about the overall mission of Girls with Guts and how you got involved with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission is to support and empower women, like you said, and we do this through a variety of online programming and in-person events. We host 2 in-person events a year. I got involved at the start of Girls with Guts in 2013. I was asked to come on as the videographer for the first retreat as a volunteer. I went to school for video and film and photo, so that was like my forte, combining both of my loves into one. And so, yeah, I filmed that first retreat, and it was like such a monumental experience for me and for the participants. And like, after that one, we were like, we have to keep this going. And eventually they asked me to be on the board, and, you know, one thing led to another, and now I am actually running the organization. So
wow, that's so cool. So how long did that process kind of take?
I was the director of multimedia from 2013 to 2017. So in 2017, I came on as president when the former executive director stepped down.
Wow, that's really awesome. So go back to what kind of things that you do. So you do retreats, did you say? Could you tell us more about the retreats and things that you do?
Yeah, so our biggest and most popular event is our in-person retreats, and now we are able to host 2 a year. We actually fundraise to host one that is fully sponsored. So we bring 30 girls in from all over, and they don't have to pay to attend. They just have to get there. And then we host a larger event that's open for 70 attendees. And it's open for anyone who wants to attend if they've attended the other retreat, which is we call it our Newbie Retreat. It's basically like an intro weekend to Girls with Guts. So both retreats, we do a lot of bonding. We do a lot of breakout sessions on like those really important topics that people don't really get to talk about with other people in person, that we found it's really important to just have someone there to talk about guilt or talk about parenting or pregnancy or all of those things that you just don't really get to talk to people about. I mean, you can in support networks online, but it's like a totally different thing when you're there with somebody in person. So yeah, our Newbie Retreats, we host 30 girls, and that's just a weekend of bonding. And then our larger retreats, which anyone can attend, are, we bring in panelists, we bring in doctors, we bring in guest speakers. So this one is more, I don't want to say conference-like, but it's more informative. And we just hope that people walk away from each of those with more knowledge and, you know, feeling empowered and can advocate for themselves. So that's what our hope is for our retreats.
That's awesome. So are these people like newly diagnosed on these retreats, on these Newbie Retreats as well?
Sometimes they are. So the disease ranges from people who are just diagnosed, who have had no surgery, and they're kind of coming to us to see what kind of medications they should be on and stuff like that. And then there are people who have had 50 surgeries and they're sort of at their wit's end and they just need emotional support. So yeah, it's a totally, the
Wow.
spectrum is pretty big.
I love that. So you literally support, like you said, the whole spectrum
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
That's really cool, and it's really good that you've got that support network there, because it is a difficult thing. Because I suppose most inflammatory bowel disease is kind of invisible to everybody else, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite a very personal thing to talk about as well.
Oh God, yeah. Especially being a woman. I mean, that's just a whole other layer talking about that. I mean, the stigma is a lot less now, but it's still pretty prominent. So.
Wow. No, I think that's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And whilst we're on the subject, can you tell me more about butt baskets and gotta go cards?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very interested to know what they are.
So we send out, per request, we have a nomination form on our website, these surgical butt baskets. So if you were having bowel surgery or ostomy surgery, for any reason, we send these butt baskets out, and they are just little cosmetic cases filled with all kinds of goodies to help you post-op. They also serve as sort of like an emergency pack that you can keep in your car, which is really good for people in our situation when you can have an accident at any time. And it's sort of like a quick cleanup pack just to help people feel a little more secure post-op. And then our Gotta Go cards, we actually send out Gotta Go cards that people can hold and use when they're out and about and they need to go to the bathroom really quickly. And it's sort of a discreet little card. It just says what IBD is, what an ostomy is, so you don't have to explain it if you need to use the restroom quickly, in the hopes that whoever you're handing it to will allow you to use the restroom. In 14 states, it's actually illegal to stop someone from using your bathroom. So we offer these as like a resource to sort of help with that.
That's really good. That's really, really good, because it's not like you don't really want to walk into a bathroom and go, yeah, look, I really have to go. And they're like, yeah, well, everybody has to go. And like, no, I really have to go.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So having a little card is brilliant. In the UK, I don't know if you have these in America, but in the UK, we have these things called radar keys that you can get. And it's basically a key to every public toilet, essentially. So it's like one key for every toilet. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Yeah, you can get a radar key. It's really cool.
Oh wow, I'm moving right over there. That's awesome. That is a
do that in other places, or if it's just the UK. But I thought that was really cool.
No, I've never heard of that. That's really awesome. You know if you can get that as like a visitor? Is that like a thing, or do you have to apply? Is there like a lofty application process?
I don't know. You have to look into that.
Okay.
But it's definitely worthwhile though for people listening who are in the UK, especially. Take a look into radar keys, because even if you have things like multiple sclerosis, like I do, or like IBD conditions that we're talking about today, it's so useful. And because it does strike at any moment, doesn't it? And like, you just gotta go. So
the amount of times that I have like been out and then it came on so suddenly, or I had a leak with my ostomy bag and I had to like bum rush to wherever I could go, a convenience store, and it was just a nightmare. It was not great. So
oh gosh, I can't even imagine. It's just crazy. For anybody, for enabled warriors listening who maybe don't really know what an IBD is or don't know what an ostomy is, could you just briefly explain that as well, just so
absolutely. So so inflammatory bowel disease is sort of the umbrella term, and there are two diseases under that, which are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. So ulcerative colitis is thought to only affect your colon in the digestive tract, and Crohn's disease can affect anywhere from mouth to butt. It can affect your eyes, it can affect your joints. And having an ostomy is a bag that you wear. There's a stoma, which is sort of a diversion of intestine, and you wear a bag over it to collect the stool. There are a few different types of ostomies. A colostomy is if you still have a colon, and an ileostomy is if it's running only from small bowel. So
okay.
Hopefully that helps if people aren't sure.
It's really great to talk about, because I think it's not one of those things that are really talked about, and I've seen a lot of people like posting pictures online with their ostomy bags and things, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool of them to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can get loads of covers and stuff for them as well, so you can really personalize it.
Yeah.
Really great, but you know, there is that kind of that thing where if someone doesn't have that, they're kind of like, well, I don't really know what it is, and I'm intrigued by it.
Right. Yeah, I
don't want to ask anybody either, so it's like,
yeah, I was like recapping my history to somebody the other day. I did a virtual 5K for Girls with Guts, and
cool.
they were like, I actually don't know what any of these surgeries are that you're talking about, and it like didn't even cross my mind that some people, because I talk to so many people in the community that like I forget a lot of the time that a lot of people even in the community aren't sure what these things are. So it is good to give an explanation.
No, I think that's awesome. I really do, and it is good that you speak about it. So, being female, how do you think that affects the kind of challenges that inflammatory bowel disease kind of creates? Let's say.
It was hard for me to compile a list, just because it affects so much, because just having IBD in general can affect your hormones, which your hormones will affect your menstrual cycle, your fertility, stuff like that. And then when you pile on surgery on top of it, that just throws your entire pelvic floor out of whack. So I wrote down a small list from our forum, because I was trying to get an idea of what things people really felt they were affected them as a woman with IBD or an ostomy. So yeah, fertility came up a lot, childbirth, menopause, menstrual cycle, hormonal changes, not being able to differentiate between surgical scar tissue and menstrual pain, endometriosis, not having medical data to back up the hormone changes, because some doctors won't they won't even consider that your IBD is affecting your hormones or vice versa, and won't even look into it when there's a very obvious connection there. Somebody wrote momming from the toilet is sort of a thing.
Momming from the toilet, I love
that. Yeah, it has come up a lot. I know a lot of people who have literally raised their children from the toilet, and I mean, that's not a thing that men deal with on a regular basis. There are also things like pain not being taken seriously, or doctors and surgeons sort of glossing over what women have to say about their disease, like not believing them, or, you know, things like that. So there are a lot of things that come into play with being a woman with IBD or an ostomy. So.
And have you had because there's this thing in the MS community where everything kind of gets put down to anxiety, or just you're a busy person, or you know, all of these rubbish things. And do you have that in the IBD community?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
I was just thinking, there was someone that I know who was diagnosed, and the doctor was like, so you are Italian and you're a type A personality. This is why you have this disease. Like, what? So
wow, okay.
You're saying that just being like a stressed out person can cause the disease, and you know, it's yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know what planet these doctors are on sometimes.
I know.
You know, it's like someone's just come into your doctor's office and just said, oh, well, I was in the shop the other day and my legs just gave out and I fell over. Like, that's not normal. When they're just like, oh, you're probably anxious. You're like, come on, no.
That's how it sort of was, and we'll talk about it a little later with my diagnosis. Like, I was just an anxious child, so like a lot of my symptoms were written off for a really long time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I can't believe that. Gosh. So let's go into your kind of diagnosis story now, if that's okay. I mean, like, what were the kind of first signs that you had that something was wrong?
So when I was born, I was actually pooping blood. So that was like as soon as I was born, and they thought that it was like a formula thing. they did switch the formula that I was on, and that stopped briefly, but ever since I can remember, I was calling home from daycare or kindergarten with stomach aches and stomach pain, and I was always bleeding when I was going to the bathroom, but I sort of kept that a secret as soon as I was, going to the bathroom on my own. But yeah, for as long as I can remember. And my mom started taking me to the doctor for it when I was probably 9, and they wrote that off as being both an anxious child, straining a lot, going to the bathroom. Just, I had these bumps on my legs. They wrote that off as shaving bumps. It was just, I could have been diagnosed a long time ago, but none of the doctors wanted to look into it. So it wasn't until I was 14 and I got what I thought was a stomach bug that just never went away. The summer I turned 14, I just got so sick so abruptly, and was diagnosed with giardia, or water contamination. I was swimming a lot in public pools that summer, so they diagnosed me with that. I was put on antibiotics. It never went away. I dropped 30 pounds. I was like 70 something pounds by the time that our family doctor was like, you have to take her into the ER. Something is just not right here. And that, like, my diagnosis week was such a blur. I don't even remember being told I had the disease. I was just in such a fog. I don't think it was until like months later that I was like, oh wow, I have this disease that I'm going to have my entire life. And like, I had signs my entire childhood, and like, so much of it makes sense now. It was like both a freeing and daunting thing at the same time, because it was like, I have an answer for all of these things. Like, I wasn't calling home crazy because I was anxious as a kid. I was actually having stomach issues. So yeah, my diagnosis, it was a lot. It was a lot, and it was abrupt. And by that point, my colon was so destroyed that I started having surgery within 3 months of my diagnosis. And I've had about 20 surgeries since then. I'm 29 now. I was diagnosed at 14. So yeah, it's been a wild 15 years for sure.
Crazy 15 years for you, yeah. I mean, what was it like to be diagnosed with at 14? And did you have to miss school a lot and things like that? Did people ask questions or?
So there's a school in Philadelphia called the Creative and Performing Arts School, which you have to audition to get into. So I auditioned to get into this school, and it was the summer before I was to start. And I was super excited to start school there. I was going for theater, which is totally not my personality. So I don't know how I got in for theater, but I was really excited and I was pumped, and I got this diagnosis in July, and it sort of put a hold on that. So I actually was homebound schooling until January So I started high school late. And when I started school, everyone had known me as the sick girl, because they would still call my name for the records every day. And they were like, this girl's not coming in here. She's not, why are you still calling her name? And then I actually showed up and they were like, oh, you're the sick girl. And I was like, how did that, I'm starting at this brand new school and I already have this title. But that actually benefited me in a large way, because that school was very supportive. Everyone was really supportive, and they were curious too. I was surprised at how many people wanted to see my ostomy or like hear about it. And it was surprisingly helpful in coming to terms with the disease. Like, I had really close friends, and I know for some diagnosed so young, it's hard. It was hard on me personally, but having that support helped a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. I mean, was it difficult when they did start asking about your ostomy bag and things? Did you kind of like, well, I don't really want to show it off because it's personal, it feels weird? And
at first, and then I realized like I could own this or I could hide it. And so from that age, I didn't even realize it was what I was doing, but I was advocating. This is a thing that everybody seems to do now with an ostomy, but I named it. So it had a name. Its name was Stuart, and that's what people referred to it. that's how people referred to it. They were like, "Oh, how's Stuart? Are you okay?" And that helped me to talk about it in like a more lighthearted way. And yeah, at first I was like, "Oh, I have this thing. It's like stuck to my body 24/7. It's gross. I feel gross." It affected my body image. But the more people seem to be curious and want to know and talk about it, the more I opened up. And I think that starting at a really young age helped pave the way for, being able to talk about it more now.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. So how does it kind of affect you day to day? Like, is one day different to the next day, or is it kind of a routine kind of pattern?
So with IBD, you sort of go to sleep and you don't know what's going to happen when you wake up, because it could be a good day where you're not having joint pain or fatigue makes you feel like you're 100 years old, or you could wake up and, it'll be a really bad day, or a really good day. So it affects me differently from day to day. I'm also really affected by my period. So the weeks of my period trigger my Crohn's disease. So, yeah, I know. So I'll then go from not having any pain to having this debilitating hip and back pain, on top of having my period and dealing with, IBD in general. It's really different day to day. I have joints affected. Sometimes my eyes are affected. I actually, from short-term steroid use, I actually have avascular necrosis in both of my ankles, which is essentially bone death caused by steroid. Yes. Yeah. So I do have pain in my ankles from time to time, and it really has affected the range of motion. So getting around is not as easy as it used to be. So yeah, it really varies day to day. Thankfully, since I've had surgery in March, and I was really suffering for a couple years before I had surgery in March, I've been doing pretty well, just having minor pains. But yeah, it really does vary.
Wow. Well, that's got to be a crazy thing to live with. It really has. What's the best way do you think you found to manage it?
Just it's like a combination of having support. Like I have a very large support network and community, and also humor. Like I try to make light of most of the situations, and if I have an accident, I mean, at the time it overwhelms me, but afterwards I'm like, I just, pooped all over my car, and like, to me, you just like really have to make light of it, or it will take you under, because it is such a hard thing to deal with and come to terms with. Like, you have this monkey on your back for the rest of your life, and you either have to make it a pet or find it another home. But
I love that analogy. That's a really good analogy. Like, I've got a really annoying pet monkey that just sits on. Yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So do you find it's affected by things like food and things that you drink or anything? Or do you take medication for it or anything like that?
Right now, I'm not on any medication and I have no dietary restrictions, but in the past before I had this ostomy, this is actually my third ostomy diversion since my diagnosis. I've had a lofty 15 years of complications with fistulas and a bunch of other things, perforations. I've had some resections because of scar tissue. Sitting here, it's like hard for me to put 15 years just in this like little box, because like as I was experiencing it, it was a lot more difficult and daunting than it is to like play it back in my mind. So
do you have any stories that you can share with anybody, that the kinds of stories that are kind of like really, really bad at the time, but then afterwards you kind of like, actually, I've learned a lot from that experience? Do you have any stories like that at all?
There was a time in high school where I was joking around with like some friends, and someone picked me up over their shoulder, and my ostomy just totally exploded all over. but no one in the room knew what happened. It exploded like down my pants, thankfully contained.
Oh.
But I just like, I was like, I have to leave school. I absolutely have to leave school right now. This is a disaster. I like went into the bathroom and I sobbed, but like my mom came to get me. I got cleaned up and I went back to school the next day and nobody talked about it. It wasn't even a thing. It was only like something that I was mortified by at the time. And I was like, you know what? This is great. I don't have to like hold on to this moment, this really terrible moment that I had. I could just sort of let it go and keep going. And that's how it's been for like a lot of the, really mortifying accidents that I've had. And within the last 15 years, it's just sort of like you deal with it and then you kind of keep trucking because there's nothing you can do about it.
Humor to it as well.
Yeah.
If you don't see the humorous side of it, then there is no point, and it's going to drag you down, like you say. So
exactly.
Oh my god, I can't imagine what that must have been like at school, though.
Yeah, it was like it went all over my clothes. It was like, but I managed to escape that room before anybody knew what happened. But yeah, at the time, I just remember being in the bathroom, like, I'm covered in poop. I don't even know how to get out of this bathroom stall without like leaving a trail of poop. But we figured it out. I made it out.
That must be so difficult. So does it like come unlodged easily? Does it kind of, is that something that you have to worry about all the time?
So with an ostomy, there are always risks for a leak, whether it's from the bottom of the bag or under the wafer. So with an ostomy, there's like a sticky part that sticks on your skin, and then there's a bag that you can either wear one piece where the bag is attached to that, or there's a two-piece that like clicks on. And yeah, there's always risks for leaks. It depends how well you get the bag to stick, humidity, things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's always sort of something in the back of your mind, like you're feeling around and you're making sure throughout the day. It becomes like an unconscious thing to check for leaks. But
you do just get used to it in the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
For anybody that is newly diagnosed, maybe with an IBD condition, and they're having to be faced with all these things and surgery and the idea of surgery, is there anything that can make surgery better? Have you found anything that's a coping mechanism for that?
Distractions. Save a bunch of shows to watch and some books to read, and make sure that you tap into a community, an online community, just so like when you're up recovering from surgery and in pain, you have people that you can reach out to ask questions.
Yeah, so you really rely on your support network.
I do a lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what that must be like. Sometimes it must be crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, before I had surgery in March, I had been battling with a recto vaginal fistula, which, for the viewers who don't know what that is,
what on earth is that? I don't even know what that is. So
it is an abnormal connection between two parts of organs. So in my case, it was connecting the back of my small intestines to my vagina. So stool was passing through both my rectum and my vagina.
Oh, wow.
Constant, like 24/7. And it is probably the most painful complication that I've had with IBD, because it's just sort of incessant and you don't feel clean and it burns and like you're afraid of the smell.
Yeah, and you're risking infection doing that.
Constant UTIs and infection, and I mean, sex and stuff like that is like not it's hardly relatable. So yeah, I've been battling with those on and off for the last 15 years. And having this diversion obviously means that I'm not having anything passing through there, which is really affected and changed my quality of life in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but do you have like a partner and things that you?
I do, yeah. And she's been with me through the last 2 years of sort of that complication and also this surgery. And she's been very supportive.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
That must be hard as well. Like if you're, especially if you're single and you have these problems and you kind of like, yeah, I don't
Right.
really want to do that, but you
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what are you supposed to say? You've only just met this person, you know, and you're like,
Right.
well, I can't
Yeah,
tell them all that just now. God.
I know. That is another thing people really struggle with in the community is like, when do I tell this person I'm dating? And like, do I
Yeah.
tell them I have this bag right away, or do I wait a little bit, feel it out, wait till they really like me?
Yeah.
So they're hooked
What
in.
kind of things do you say to them when that happens? Like,
The way that I've explained it to people, when I was dating like new people, just that I have this condition called IBD. It affects me daily. It's basically a GI tract disorder, and it makes me go to the bathroom more frequently. And I also have, these extra intestinal manifestations. And so far, no one has run when I tell them that. I'm not sure people really get it until they've experienced like a bout of, your struggles. But
yeah. Oh
I
God.
found that it's best to be open sort of up front, just so you can sort of get a read on people, because if somebody reacts poorly, you know that they're probably not the one you want to be with.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gosh. It's important to really read people, I think.
I know.
Thing. And it's knowing who to trust as well, I think.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So going on, so a little bit further than that. So how does it kind of affect, let's say, childbirth and pregnancy and things like that? Is that really disrupted by IBD?
So it varies from person to person. It's really hard to give just a simple overview answer. There are a lot of people who have pretty painless pregnancies with IBD, no problem. There are women I know who have ostomies who have had successful pregnancies without IVF or anything, just totally natural.
Mm-hmm.
So it really varies. And then there are people that I know who it's totally like warped their fertility, and they're trying IVF and they're doing surrogacy, and sometimes it's totally off the table and you're just totally infertile. And I know some women just opt for adoption. So it's just a full range of how it can affect you. And it depends on, severity of disease and surgeries that you've had, and there's a lot of different factors.
Wow. God.
Yeah.
So who would be, where would you kind of find the best information about that? Who would be the best person to talk to about that?
We actually partnered with the Gastro Association on the IBD Parenthood Project. So I would do a quick Google of the IBD Parenthood Project, and you could there's a lot of resources there.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of, for any enabled warriors listening that have maybe got Crohn's disease or another IBD condition, then that's a really useful thing to know, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, okay, we've had such a good, a good in-depth chat today. Are you ready for some super quick secrets?
Okay.
Oh, okay, enabled warriors. This is the part of the show where we find out a little bit more about the personality of our guest with some super quick secrets. Are you ready for this, Alicia?
I'm ready.
Excellent. What is the most inspiring book that you've ever read?
I was thinking about this a lot last night, and one of the most inspiring books I've ever read was Brain on Fire. I don't know if you've ever read it, by Susanna Callahan. And it's basically about this woman who undergoes this really rare brain disorder diagnosis, and just having doctors not believing her symptoms and writing her off as crazy. And I feel like that is super relevant to, the IBD world and chronic illness world, where you have all these symptoms and sometimes people don't believe you. And then there was this one doctor who finally advocated for her and figured out what was wrong. And I thought that was a really great book.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible, because it's the worst thing in the world when you've got all these problems and a doctor's just not believing you, and it's just
right.
Yeah, I hear things like that all the time, and it's worrying, really, because you kind of think, well, why are they not listening?
Right. I know.
So what is the weirdest thing that you've ever done?
I'm a weird person in general, so this was also hard to think about. But in college, I've pooped outside quite a bit. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, and in some of those cases, I had to do it. So.
A lot of marathon runners have to do that, you know.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, side of the road kind of job.
I guess it's less weird than I thought, but yeah, that would probably be one of them. Yeah.
Cool. I love how that's like that's just one of them, and I'm dying to know what the others are now.
Well, in high school, I did introduce myself as Bill for some reason. No idea why, and people did refer to me as Bill. Just one of those weird, random things.
That is so cool. I love that. It's like, from now on, I shall be called Dave.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, gosh. That is awesome.
Yeah.
What is your favorite place that you've ever visited?
This was hard. Ojai, California, if you've never been there, is really, really beautiful. And last summer I watched a sunset on the very, very top of this mountain, and it was probably the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I'm such a big lover of the sunset and the sunrise.
Yeah, it was really, really. It was a long, it was a long, treacherous drive up that mountain, but it was so worth it.
Yeah, God, I can imagine. Like, I can't imagine what it would be like to see a sunset from a mountain.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's on my bucket list of things to do. What would you say is the scariest thing that you've ever done?
The scariest thing I've ever done also ties back to IBD life. The scariest thing I've ever done was just I packed up all my stuff and I went away to college, 4 hours away, with no health insurance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I had no doctors there. I had no medication. I was actively flaring, and I was like, no, I'm doing this. This is where I want to go. I'm going to make it through. And I made it through tooth and nail and graduated. And that was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. But
good on you. What did you graduate in?
TV, radio, and film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where can other warriors find out more about you and what you do?
girlswithguts.org.
That's the best place to find you.
That is the best place to find us.
Or on a retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. We have applications opening in November for our 2020 Newbie Retreat, so stay on the lookout for that.
Nice. Where's that retreat being held?
In East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's right on a lake. It's a very, very pretty location.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on today and discussing all of that with us, because I'm just so grateful to hear from you. It's amazing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And I think it's really helping enabled warriors out there to just like talk about all of this sort of stuff and just get it out in the open, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's great. So thanks so much, Alicia, and see you soon. Bye.
All right, bye.
If you want to fight back against your invisible illness and help take the dis out of disability, then join the tribe on Facebook, facebook.com/enabledwarriors. If you love this podcast, click that subscribe button and never miss another episode. And remember, warriors, stay enabled.